ultimate NRL experience. With non-stop action and top-notch analysis, this is the podcast for all rugby league fans. So join us for a deep dive into the world of rugby league and don't miss a beat of the action.
Welcome back to the Gone for 10 show. Now, obviously, before we do get started, we do want to say quick with our thoughts, our prayers are with you for anyone that is affected by the Turkey and Syrian earthquakes that are going on at the moment. So obviously, our thoughts are going out to you, our prayers are going out to you, not just the people that live in Turkey, but obviously the family members and friends that we have here that have family members over there. But Baxter, obviously, it's not a good thing to start a podcast with, but I think it is important to obviously say that we are with them. We do stand with them, but we are here to talk about the season previews for the three teams on the screen. It's the Melbourne Storm, the Canterbury Panthers Bulldogs, or as they like to call themselves, the Bulldogs, and the St. George Illawarra Dragons, who we have obviously a spoon. Now, that might be one of us thinks that, both of us thinks that, but before we jump into that, mate, how are you doing?
Doing fabulous for a Wednesday here. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, but good enough to put your feet up.
100%. Obviously, we'll jump into it too quickly. We're not going to talk too much about this, but we did have pre-season week 1. The results are on the screen. The Warriors 48 defeating the Tigers 12. The Sharks 28 defeating Newcastle 16. Manly and Rabbitohs playing an absolute cracker 30-28 to Manly. Panthers 22-16 against the Eels. The Dragons going down to St. Helens 30-18, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The Roosters obviously beating Storm 32-24. The Bulldogs 34-18 over the Raiders. The Cowboys and Dolphins played at a 22-all draw. And then obviously the Broncos and the Titans played at a 22-all draw. Now, again, we're not going too much into this, but do any of those results stand out to you more than any other?
No, it's only trials. I catched probably the first 20 minutes of each game. And it was good to see footy back on. The cricket season's not quite over yet, so it was good to have two sports going on at once. But look, it's trials. Don't read into it because anything could happen. You could run out your B-side squad for the whole 2 weeks and then win the whole thing afterwards. So don't read into it too much.
Well, there is obviously a lot of first graders named this weekend. So we might get a bit more of a look onto what we think squads are going to run out round 1, who's going to play what. But like you said, they might get 20 minutes. They might get 25 minutes. They're not going to play an 80-minute game. Maybe the Charity Shield, maybe the Club World Cup, but I don't think the rest of them are. But just quickly, we'll jump into it. The thoughts and main takeaways, obviously, Metcalf and Tamari Martin. They give Webster a good headache to have a half at the Warriors. The Knights' poor completion rate, 29 out of 45. Again, this is why I have O'Brien first to get sacked. Cooper Johns, he's put his hand up now. Can he partner DC in the halves? He had 2 try assists and looked brilliant. And he will actually partner him this weekend. Panthers' depth is unreal. The back combo of Jesse McLean and Tom Jenkins ran for 335 metres off only 25 runs. Dragons losing the St. Helens. We saw it on the fin. They've got a Witherspoon next to him for a reason. We'll touch on that when we get to it. Justin Olam, he's now sidelined for 6 weeks with a fractured forearm. Played 25 minutes. However, he did set up 2 tries. The Dolphins, they'll want to hold on to the ball more. And Reece Walsh, he was exceptional. But let's jump into it. I'll throw it to you. It's the Panthers, Bulldogs, whichever one you want to call them. Talk to me about it.
Look, it's big losses, big gains. So you got Corey Allen going to the Roosters, Matt Doorey to the Eels. You got Matt Duffy going to the Warrington Wolves over in England. Jack Terry to the Knights. Josh Jackson, he surprise retired. Text message sort of out of the blue saying he's retiring. A big loss in their forward pack. Joshua Marshall-King, another big loss to the Dolphins. Brett Naden to the Tigers. Aaron Schlupp to the Titans. I was listening to their JBK podcast about how his exit and whatnot at the Bulldogs. Sad to see him go because I thought he was a really outstanding right centre there. You got Ava Malawi to the Leopards. I don't know actually where are the Leopards, Tony, if you can look it up while I'll keep going on. Joe Simpson to the Titans. Paul Vaughan to to Warrington Wolves again, and Brandon Wakeham to the Tigers. Their games, they got Brown, Clark, Davey, Hughes, Kickow, Reed Mahoney, Opalau, Pele, Perham, Preston, and Sutton, all good players brought in under their new coach. Excuse me. What is the new coach's name? Because my mind escapes me at the moment.
Serrato.
That's him, Big C. Look, are they his players? Are they Gus Gould players? Are they other people's players? We don't know, but most of them signed after the announcement of Serrato. So it will be an interesting one to watch this club unfold. Obviously, they've got the likes of Matt Burnham, the Fox. The two big names off the top of my head. I haven't really researched into the Dogs so much, but this is going to be a cracking start because, like, last year we thought they were going to come out all guns blazing, and then it got down to round 10, and that's when the big whole Gus Gould took over and Bennett out the door, and just I think Gussie. I think he's got the right man at the helm now. He's got someone that will listen to him and move in the way that he wants the Bulldogs to go forward as a united front, and just kick out as well. Just he's another player who's played under Big C, so we'll just have again. This is going to be an exciting team, and all signs look positive for this Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I look at the gains for the Bulldogs. Kickout, Mahoney. They've got those players that can just go all in. Frank Pele, he did brilliant on the weekend. I thought he was a really good standout. Now, I look at the players that they've left. Brett Naden, we already knew about. He left very early last year. Jeremy Marshall-King, I think that's probably one of the biggest losses they do have there. Jack Hetherington, yes, he's a great player. He'll kill someone, but he'll also give away 10 penalties a game, 5 errors a game, so it's probably not worth it. Serrato, where do I go with that? Obviously, he might not have been at Penrith directly under Gus Gould when he was there for the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year plan, whatever you want to call it, but he's now in a system. So a system that he was at Penrith, he'd learnt the system that Gus Gould had put in place. Coaches change, but the system stays the same. So do you think this Canterbury side can replicate, we might be getting ahead of ourselves, but replicate what we've seen at Penrith over the next 5, 6, 7 years?
Absolutely. You can come to see that into fruition. You might see another Penrith Panthers 2.0 sort of going through the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Also, another game you haven't got on screen is Stephen Crichton. I know he announced he signed only early in the season, sort of late in the preseason to be there next year. But that's another gain for the moving forward. So it will be good to see. But my question is, who's going to be the 7 now that they've dropped out of the race for Mitch Moses from the Parramatta Eels? Are they going to stick with the young bloke from that came across from the Roosters? Are they going to go with someone else? I think it has to give. You have to give it to the bloke who's been there and done it. Which again,
are you trying to stall until I say what his name is?
Yeah, this is terrible for me. Like normally, I'm good with players' names.
Kyle Flanagan.
That's it. I knew his last name. I just didn't want to pronounce his first name wrong or say the wrong player. But yes, Kyle. Is it going to be Kyle, or is it going to be another junior, or is it going to be a reserve grade player, or is it going to be a 20s player? I think it should be Kyle. I think he looked really good with Josh Reynolds in the 6th there. But yes, it was only trials, and it was against the Raiders, where Ricky doesn't really give a two cents for trials. But they look really good. If that's their sort of B team, if you want to call it that, imagine what their A team can put together with the likes of Reed Marnie, Kikau, Foxy all coming together at once. It'll be great to see. Again, I'll be watching this game this weekend very closely.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it has to start the season with obviously Birdo and Flanagan. We might see something if Flanagan's not carrying his weight, where it's a Birdo and maybe a Josh Reynolds, and they kind of play a 6 and 7, and they just rotate. They both just play. One takes control. So I'm not sure too much what will happen, but I'd almost say 90% confirm that come round one, it's going to be Kyle Flanagan in the 7, Birdo in the 6, and we'll move everyone else around there. But let's move on. I think it's going to be an exciting season for the Dogs. I think they could make the top 8. I think they're there or thereabouts in that 6th to 10th position. There's a big chance. But moving on, obviously it's the Melbourne Storms. 2023 losses. It's a massive loss. Jesse Bromwich, Kenneth Bromwich, Cooper Johns to Manly, Felice Kafusi, Brandon Smith, and Tyson Smoothly to obviously the Broncos. Their 2023 gains, Joe Chan, Alicia Katoa, Aaron Penne, and Tarek Sims. And boy, he likes a bit of a model shot looking at Sims right there, but can he produce what has been lost by the Bromwich brothers and Kafusi and Brandon Smith? What are your thoughts on that?
I think Tarek Sims is a foot soldier. There's not many out there that you can just, again, we go back to March Nichols, and he's another foot soldier where you can just sort of go, here's your 3 top points for the game plan. Like, I want you to make, so many hit ups. I want you to get the ball rolling and whatnot. You give him a simple game plan, and he can execute it to a T. I think he's just been starving for some wins at the Dragons and wherever else he's been playing beforehand. So I think just moving down to sort of a winning culture, they can get the best out of him. I think it's been shown. David Nofaluma was there, and what a player he was. He was at the Tigers, and he was starving of wins, and he looked like a new player in Melbourne Storm colours. But again, Tarek Sims, I reckon he will be good. Big loss there with the Bromwich brothers. It's hard to say because they play sort of a different role, where Tarek Sims is more of a meter eater, where Bromwich is more of a player. They put more of a offload, so to say, to get the extra meters, and that's when they bring in the fullback. Oh, again, this is killing me. Don't say his name. Oh, Paran Pappenhausen. Yeah, I knew it'd come to me. Just give me a minute. Oh, I've been terrible today. Look, this is one of my days off. Just off with the fairies at the moment. And again, maybe Tarek Sims does come with this offloading game and replicates the Bromwich brothers' way and the Khalees Kafusi. Just have to wait and see, but I don't think this will hurt them too much. Yeah, Brandon Smith pay increase with these World Cup. Bromwich brothers pay increase, need to move on some players. That's why they go on to the Dolphins and Khalees Kafusi. I think they got it right. I think they'll do well, but they'll just slip this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I put my predictions up a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we've still got to put yours up, which we will put up, obviously, on Instagram and Facebook before the season starts. But I have this team dropping the 6th to 8th. No disrespect to Bellamy, no disrespect to the side. They still got Munster. They still got Hughes. Pappenhausen come round 8 to 10 whenever he is back fully fit, which, as an NRL fan, we hope is a lot sooner than later. As a Roosters fan, if he has to miss a few games and we play him, I'm not saying too much. But Tarek Sims, he comes in. Again, we spoke with the Bulldogs. It's a system. He comes into a winning culture, a winning system where he doesn't have to do all these meters gains on all these runs. It's catch the ball, take your hit up, play the ball. Catch your ball, take the hit up. He doesn't need to do anything flashy. So, again, I think their losses outweigh their gains, and there's a lot of players on that loss in the Bromwich brothers and Smith and Kafusi, but they're also under Craig Bellamy. So I still have them making the 8, but only just. Do you have this side in your 8, or do you have them missing out?
I believe I do. I'll quickly pull up my 8. I think I have them in my 8. I'm not telling anybody whereabouts in the 8, but again, yeah, I have them in my 8.
Well, there you go. I mean, we both have them in the 8, but there are a lot of losses, so it wouldn't surprise me if they finish in that 6th, 7th, 8th, which that's why I did put my prediction if they miss out altogether, it's purely going to be because of injuries, because they have enough talent on that park to finish in the top 8. But let's move to a side that probably doesn't have enough talent to finish into that top 8. It's that team right there. It's the Dragons. He's got a smile on his face right now, but I don't know if he will for a very long time. Their losses: Daniel Alvaro to Elise, George Burgess retired, Pawasa Famasuli to the Dolphins, Jackson Ford to the Warriors, Jack Gawowski to the Cowboys, Andrew McCullough retired, Josh Maguire, Warrington, Tarek Sims to Melbourne. Now their gains: Jacob Little, Nick Louis Tosso, Michael Molo, Bern Murdoch Masolio, and Zane Musgrove. Baxter, it doesn't look pretty. It does not look pretty on paper. Now, we can say it's only on paper they're going to perform, but we saw some of their stars take the field. We saw Jacob Little. We saw Lomax. We saw Ravalara. We saw these players take the field against St. Helens, and it's always been that thing where we say, if you're playing a team from the Super League, you're going to win by 20 or 30. They didn't win by 20 or 30. They didn't even win the game. They lost. So, talk to me. What do you think about this side? Is it just maybe they have to get Ben Hunt back in the squad, they have to do this, and that, or is this side in serious trouble?
This whole club's in serious trouble. This is like a split board. You got the St. George v. the Illawarra members of the board who, they sort of preach for different things. When it comes to coach selection, they preach for two different opposing style coaches. Hook tried to play this with the salary cap that he had, with the budget he sort of was left with after Anthony Griffin. It is Anthony Griffin, my bad. It's just he's trying to bring in players on a small contract to get the most out of it, and it's not quite worked for them. They sort of, their first half of the season, if you want to cut it off there and give them the number one spot, because they went really well, and then they just died off in the back end. But the players they picked up, apart from Jacob Little, who can sort of do something at 9, it's not really a lot, because you got Cody Ramsey, who's also gone down injured. You lose George Burgess, and again another foot soldier in the middle. You lose Andrew McCullough, the IQ, and the just picks up virtually a replica of Cameron Smith, where he scoops up the ball and he'll kick downfield, or he short ball out the back, or a quick ball to the side and through a hole or whatnot. And then you got another Josh Maguire, another foot soldier, and Tarek Sims. So there's 3 players or 4 players that are just really key. Could give them to any team, and they'll just improve the squad immensely. So it's pretty sad that they haven't sort of handled their cap a little bit better with retirement and players moving on. I know, salary cap, they Moneyball, they wanted to pay him X amount of dollars of a big salary cap, and now it's time to move on. But I just don't think they've recruited enough depth into their squad, and I just look, I'm going to put it out there. They are my Spooners. And you think Justin Holbrook or the Knights coach is going to be the first to go? I think it's going to be Hook for the Dragons. I think he will be the first coach to go very early on. I think the club has given him maybe a 10-week up until Magic Round. And if it's not looking good, then I think it'll be an early doors on his coaching tenure at the St. George Illawarra Dragons.
Come on, mate. You got to put a little bit of respect on his name. Come the end of round 1, he's going to be equal top of the ladder because they have a bye in round 1. So you can't ask for more than that in a club turmoil. But obviously, a bit of news that just came across my phone as you were talking. Young for an Arrow debut this year suffered an ACL tear against St. Helens, so he will be out for majority of the season. However, Jack DeBellin should be fit for round 2, given they have the bye in round 1. So a bit of a bad news, good news for St. George. But again, like you, I'll put it out there. At this stage, unless they really change my mind this week, You're looking at my 2023 Wooden Spooners, your 2023 Wooden Spooners. Mate, the club doesn't even know what it wants to be called. Half of them want to be called the Dragons. Half want to be called St. George. The fans want to be called Illawarra. Who knows what's going on at that club? So a club in turmoil. But before we do wrap up this podcast, because obviously, again, we are talking about the Dragons right now, but we were talking about the Melbourne Storm. I'll get your thoughts on this quite quickly. Justin Olam, he's sidelined for 6 weeks minimum. Ryan Pappenhausen, 6 to 8 weeks. George Jennings is gone for 4 weeks. And Marion Steve, to be confirmed with an outgoing cartilage issue. And Tariq Sims also has an injury but will be available in the early rounds. Does that change your perception on Melbourne, given they do have a tough start to the 2023 season?
I'll make my decision after this weekend, depending on, as you said, those players out. We'll just see after this weekend. Maybe I have to change my ladder predictions because I have some good ones there.
Well, obviously, like we said, guys, we will run a podcast or we will put a social media post up where we do put our predictions in. Me and Baxter, we did do it a bit last year. We will make an effort to have our tips in each week, even if we make a competition where it's just me and him, so we can track who gets the most tips right come the end of the season. But Baxter, will wrap up there. Obviously, it's been the Dragons, the Storm, and the Bulldogs season. Guys, let us know in the comments. Agree, disagree. Do you think the Dragons can make the top 8? Do you think the Bulldogs aren't going to make the top 8? Are Melbourne going to crumble? Are Melbourne going to rise to the crop like they do every year? Let us know in the comments. But Baxter, thank you for joining me again. And we'll be back very soon to cover another 3 teams.
Yeah, peace.
Peace.
Now the stage is set for the best season yet. You